Do you know where your eyeballs have been? You may not know it, but we have entered into what's being called an attention economy. And attention is considered by some to be the rarest commodity on the planet right now. And we don't realize that all of us require attention lifelong as much as we do food and water. So just imagine if you didn't have access to water or food, even for a couple of hours, some of you would get really frantic. But attention is something that we expect that we can get when we're children, but when we're grown up, we're not supposed to need it. And we really forget that almost everything that we do is involved with giving and receiving attention. So everything from peekaboo, which I think is the most universal game. You can play peekaboo. I play it in the airport. You can play it anywhere in the world. To flirting, to rushing the stage. That's really all about the exchange of attention. But what is attention? And how do we use it? I remember in the 7th grade, we had a game with our math teacher. And we would have a couple of different people who would yawn and then go back to their work. And we had somebody else timing. So the game was, how soon can we make the teacher yawn? And that was one of the attention games. We had staring games. This was back before smartphones. So we had to do things like staring contests. I was really good at that. I could not blink for 2 minutes. And I think if you just consider what you do in a course of a day, that it's really all about attention, keeping your eye on the ball. If you look at sports, it's really all about how are we giving and receiving attention. So I wanted to share with you an attention skill that's going to allow you to amplify your experience of being here, of connecting, and of receiving the medicine of attention. So I would like you to consider that your attention is like a reservoir. And I'd like you to give yourself some curious attention. I'd like you to let your awareness move inside you and notice either a body sensation or your breath. And then I'd like you to turn your attention outward to maybe notice what's going on in the room or the person next to you. And I want to invite you to let your attention fan out. Just see, how can I do that? How can I let my attention fan out and then focus? And then fan out, so you maybe are aware of what's going on. You could even use your hands if you're daring enough to do that in a room full of other people. And then focusing, and then coming back to you. Because what has happened is that with our devices, especially, our three-dimensional attention has become much more two-dimensional. And we have experiences of being with people, but we're not really receiving the nourishment of attention. So I want to invite you to do something that I call loop of awareness, which is simply shifting your attention. So as I'm speaking to you, I'd like you to let yourself receive that and notice, how am I receiving this in my body? And you're simply going to be letting your attention shift. I like to think of it as a kind of a benign boomerang. You let your attention come out, so you might let your attention come up here and then let it come back to you. So you're simply tossing or swinging or shifting your attention. And you're going to forget, because you're going to get involved in, or there'll be a noise, you'll get distracted. And the practice of shifting your attention, which seems really simple and is actually really, really simple, can, first of all, fill your reservoir so you can renew yourself. And it can help you to locate. So if I'm giving myself attention and I'm giving you attention, then I am located here and I know where I am and I can re-own. So the really big purpose of all of the attention work that I do is to be able to choose where and how I'm actually using my attention. So I'd like you to continue doing that. There are a couple of other things that happen when you're shifting your attention. One is that you experience what scientists call situational awareness. You're able to locate yourself in the setting in which you are. And I've personally avoided at least 5 accidents by being able to notice what was going on around me. Also, when you're in a conversation with other people, you're able to check if what you're saying actually landed for the other person. And I'll be speaking, I'll go, oh, wait a minute, they're not here anymore. And so I can go, oh, what just happened? And I can reconnect. The really big thing that happens is that you renew your own attention reservoir, that you are able to both receive and renew and let your attention to others be an overflow rather than coming from the scarcity of attention. So when you own your attention, one of the things that occurred for me was that I was able to release. So not only renewing and regenerating, but releasing. I was terrified of flying. My whole life I'd been terrified of flying. I have 1 million air miles now, over 1 million. But when I was terrified of flying, I took myself to a ropes course. And one of the activities was rappelling, which was repelling to me when I first heard about it. But rappelling is going backwards down a mountain with just ropes. And they had me all hooked up, and I'm just absolutely frozen. And then I realized the woman who's talking to me, I am able to let her voice in. And then I started doing what she asked me to do, and then I was listening to her, and I realized I was using my attention to give attention to what she was telling me to do, and then to do it. And as I was doing that, I realized my fear had turned to interest and then to excitement. And I actually kind of bounced my way down the mountainside and had that experience of, oh my God, I did this. And I realized also after that my whole experience of fear shifted because I was giving my attention to being here and connecting with others. So the last thing I wanted to share with you is that many of us know how to pay attention, and we know where we're supposed to pay attention and how we're supposed to pay attention, but we don't know how to receive attention. And I would like to invite you to open up to what would it be like for me to richly receive attention as well as being able to give it to others? And that would allow you to then enter into what Gay and I have been interested in for so many years, which is letting each day be an opportunity to expand our capacity to give and to receive more love. And that starts with attention. And may you own it richly.